everybody, it's Dr. Kristy Taylor, your favorite career and executive coach and founder of Work Solutions LLC. But as you know, this month we are doing something different. I'm currently serving as Dr. Maryland America, and as part of my platform, my goal is to leverage my health science background to actually bring attention to Fibroid Awareness Month. I shared earlier this month that I have struggled with fibroids, and all month long we have been sharing information and sharing the stories of real women with real stories about their fibroid journey. And so over the course of the last couple of weeks, you've had the opportunity to listen to some stories from some different women and different perspectives and experience. And today I am so glad to be able to bring you another one of those stories from Miss Sheila Holley. Sheila, thank you so much for coming and joining us for our fibroid awareness campaign. And introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your fibroid journey.
Yeah, well, my name is Sheila Holley. I am an HR executive, been in HR for about 15 years. I have my own HR and safety consulting firm called Trinity City Consulting and a podcast called She Unrestricted, where strength meets healing and elevation and begins. And we just elevate women and we talk about things unrestricted. And so I suffered with fibroids for about 14 years. My husband and I have been married for 16 years. When we got married, we got pregnant and I lost the baby at 12 weeks. I had to bring the fetus to my doctor so she can examine it. And she told me that I had fibroids. That was the first time that I actually learned about it. And I suffered with it for about 14 years. And she said I wouldn't be able to have any kids until I got them removed. And so I struggled with heavy periods, anemia, fatigue, libido loss, all the things that you could think of, having to change my sanitary items every hour, maybe two, maybe. And so, the struggle is definitely real. I
don't think most women feel comfortable. I spent 10 years in higher education teaching health education. And this was probably one of the first instances where I've openly come on and shared the struggles of dealing with fibroids. When I was 30 years old, I remember being diagnosed with fibroids and I thought, okay, it's non-cancerous, it's okay. Then I got pregnant and I ended up having a miscarriage because of the fact that I didn't get the fibroids removed in time. And then I have a whole something else that I can add to that, because women who are going in complaining, I was constantly complaining for almost 2 or 3 years in a row that my side was hurting. And so when they actually went in there to do the first myomectomy, you know what they also found? That my appendix was inflamed. So that is a whole nother story about going in and telling doctors like, hey, this is an issue, something is wrong. And then they really did. I could have died literally because my appendix was about to implode. So when this happened, when you talk about, I'm not even going to ask you when you first realized, because you've already said it, right? In terms of you weren't even aware that this was happening to you until you actually had a miscarriage. But when you look back, do you think that there were some signs that were there?
Oh, there definitely were signs that were there. I had heavy periods. I would go 1 hour and I would have to set a timer on my watch, on my phone, to make sure I go. If not, I would bleed out. I couldn't wear white. I couldn't go anywhere. I had to schedule my plans during the month. And I was like, people were like, oh, that's normal. And I'm like, yep, I'm just wearing an extra large tampon. And they were like, that's normal. And I'm like, it doesn't feel normal. I was always severe anemia. I had to get a blood transfusion. They had me on iron pills, but no one knew why. We didn't get to the root cause. And so I'm doing all these supplements. I'm tired, fatigue. Nobody knew why. I didn't know why.
I don't know if I actually suffer from pica, which is something I did not bring up, but I would have these strange cravings. I mean, it was one time I was just ordering, and it's so weird because when you suffer from pica, because of the low iron, you have cravings for like dirt, flour. You see people eating cornstarch. Now I'm not gonna eat some dirt, but I would have these cravings for like flour, and so unleavened bread, right? I was eating communion crackers because of that floury taste. I was eating a lot of ice, so I don't know if you experienced that.
I did. I used to eat a lot of ice. Then I started having a craving for baking soda, so I would just put the baking soda in my mouth and then spit it out. And I was like, I didn't even know it was because I was limited or my body was deficient. And I had
craving those minerals.
Yeah, craving the minerals. And I didn't even know. And so I ended up having a baby and my first kid. So I have 3. So I ended up having my first kid, but I was on bed rest for the last 3 months of my pregnancy because of fibroids. And they thought that was the baby when it was actually a fibroid. And we named the fibroid because it was just popping out there. And so I struggled with my second pregnancy because the first one was a miscarriage.
So you have 3 children. So most of the stories that we have heard, like the ladies that I've been interviewing, and this is why it's so important, guys, to have some different perspective. Because like I said in the last interview, you can still have children. For me, I've had 2 myomectomies, and I'm 40. I'm about to be 43 now. I'm still holding out hope, right? But large part of the assumption was almost always has been made about me personally that I didn't want children, but that's not true. It's just because I'm dealing with the health issues associated with the fibroids, right? And that can be really taxing. But here we have Sheila, and she has 3 children. So each person's experience is different. So don't feel like if you have fibroids that you can't have children, right? It can happen for you, right? And you just have to take care of yourself. So when you talk about, you've already talked a little bit about how fibroids have impacted your life personally, professionally, but what about the emotional and physical part of how fibroids has impacted your life?
Yeah, low libido, emotionally dealing with the fibroids, not being able to lose my stomach. There will be moments where I would be bleeding and cramping, and I would just need to lay in the bed for the first 2 or 3 days of my
Yeah.
period. They gave me some medicine to help, reduce the bleeding. But at the same time, I was moody, emotional, in bed, spending lots of money on products. It's just, I would cry. I would literally cry because I
Yeah,
was
I would
getting
take off
all the,
work. I got to work from home, you know.
I got to work from home. And I'm over here holding down a whole HR department. And every month this thing comes like clockwork. I got to take off. And then it affected my blood pressure. So I ended up having high blood pressure on my last pregnancy and couldn't get rid of it because I couldn't figure out what to do. And I ended up having a partial hysterectomy after my 3rd kid.
I know for me, I was when we talk about the medications that they give you, I am just now, like after like what 12, 13 years of dealing with this, just now getting on some medication, which was a new birth control. I just like, y'all gotta give me some. I need because I cannot. I had another myomectomy in August of last year, and for those who don't know, like I'm a reservist, right? And it's only I'm still serving in the military, so I can't really just be having stuff on my profile, right? I have to keep doctors updated. And one of the doctors called me. She said, "Kristy, you ain't getting better. You literally just had a myomectomy, but you still sick, right?" And so I was like, "Well, I'm gonna work on that." And they gave me something called tricemic acid. I don't know if you've ever been given it, but
Yep.
what brought the awareness to me was this is, guys, tricemic acid is something that they give you. I forgot what it's like when it's that disease where you can't, hemophiliac, where
Mm-hmm.
it controls the bleeding. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine that for us, something is not working and they're giving you medicine that they would usually give to somebody who suffers from hemophilia to control the bleeding. But what that doctor said to me was, she said, "Chris, this is just a Band-Aid, right? Because if I didn't take that," and you can't take it in conjunction with birth control because it'll cause your blood to clot. So I just finally said, "Hey, I'm not ready for a hysterectomy yet because I'm still holding out hope, right? I'm pushing into menopause that I might be able to have a child." But just like, "Hey, can you give me something?" So I ended up, again, this was months after the surgery, just saying like, "Hey, a new form of birth control, estrogen based maybe." And then also just having to have an iron infusion because I was tired. I was eating kale, taking
Yeah.
iron, and my body just wasn't absorbing it. So what about, again, back to you in terms of your experience and your perspective on that?
Yeah, I did birth control. So I had 2 UFEs. So I had a UFE after my first, and then I had my second, fine, no problem. I went full term. I actually had to push her out. I had to walk her out. My third is when I found out the fibroids came back. And so in between time, I was taking birth control. I was on the NuvaRing, and I truly believe, I'm not a doctor, but that messed up my hormones and caused the fibroids to come back
Because I
more
think it's
aggressive.
progestin. It's a progestin base, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of
And
times, again, like, let me slipping into health teacher mode. But when you're dealing with progestin, that's for like if you get the new ring or if you're getting a shot
right.
from back in the day, that really can impact your body in that way. So for me personally, I asked for a non-progesterone base or even
Yeah.
progestin, right? That simulated hormone base. Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
okay. So
And
what
then I got on
lifestyle
the
changes?
trinaminic acid
Now
because
you're on the
nothing worked. Well, I was before I had the partial hysterectomy. Because
okay.
I would end up in the ER because the pain was so aggressive, it would cause my blood pressure to skyrocket. So I would go into the ER, and that's when I finally was like, you know what? They said that I think my uterus was, I guess the typical size is supposed to be like 64 grams. Mine was 961.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I was in surgery for about 7 hours. And that was the only relief that I could get. I was done having kids. And so that was the only relief at that time that would work. I tried holistic approaches, but I think I was too far gone from that.
So again, I mean, for me, your story is inspirational. Again, you probably were a lot younger than me when it comes to having children, but I think for women who are listening in on this and trying to decide what are they going to do, as my last guest said, it's important really to listen to your doctor and make the best decision for you. For some women, the all natural route worked. And I tried it for months after my surgery. Just let me eat kale and spinach and take some, like a little iron. My body just could not absorb iron because I was still very anemic. So for me, actually going and getting an iron infusion and then trying to, hey, the tranexamic acid, I'm gonna need something that's more long term, right? So finding the right birth control. So we talked about lifestyle changes and treatment. We talked about how it's impacted you first. So where are you now in that space? You've had the partial hysterectomy. You said that you've had your children. You had the partial hysterectomy. What would you tell women who are trying to make the best decision for them with regards to what to do next when it comes to dealing with fibroids?
I will say this. I know doctors say you can't have babies or get pregnant with fibroids. That's not true, because I've had successful pregnancies. You do have to take a little bit more care of your body and be under a little bit more less stress and all that. So it is possible. However, you have to make the best decision for yourself. For me, after I had my third kid, I was suffering. My blood pressure, I was on blood pressure medication from 2020 to just recently. And I was suffering from headaches, migraines, anemia. I would lay in the bed for days. And a partial hysterectomy for me at this stage was the best solution, because now I don't have to worry about a period. I don't have to go into menopause early because they kept my ovaries, they kept my cervix, everything works out perfect. But there is life with fibroids and without fibroids. And so you just have to do what's best for you and for your body.
Thank you so much for that advice. Now, before we close, Sheila, because Sheila does HR, y'all, so we want to have her back on the Work Solutions podcast so we can talk HR stuff, right? So, before we close, you've already shared that message, but tell us a little bit about your business. What do you have coming up next? And is there, anything you want to share from that aspect? Because you do have your own podcast and stuff and your own business that you run.
Yes. So I do have an HR and safety consulting business, and we actually do strategic HR. So it's not the tactical work, the filing of this, but what we do is we take small growing scaling businesses and we get them compliant. And we also free up the CEO and the workers so that they can do what they need to do by getting more clarity, freeing up their time and building leaders and building their people infrastructure so that way they can be successful. Additionally, I have a podcast. It's called She Unrestricted. Super excited about it. We're about 4 episodes in. We're on pretty much all streaming platforms, but it's really about taking the woman and helping her live an unrestricted life. So we talk about all things personal, career, family, faith, life. And this upcoming week, I think we're releasing a podcast on friends. And it's all things friends, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so I'm super excited to share that with you guys and really just to share life and help women elevate all throughout, no matter what stage of life they're in.
So Sheila, we thank you. And I love that the last person we interviewed, she was an art therapist. And so these women are thriving. Living with fibroids can be difficult, right? But you have to make the right decision for you. And as you can see by the women that we've had an opportunity to interview and share their stories over the course of this month, these women are thriving in their life. They're doing great things, and we hope to see more of you in the future. So Sheila, thanks for coming on today. This will be available on our Work Global News YouTube channel, again, as well as my personal platforms, which is Dr. Kristy Taylor on both Instagram and TikTok. Thanks, guys.